Hi everyone, and welcome to Readings in English. I'm so glad you're here. Have you ever stopped to think about how incredible the English language is? It's a vibrant tapestry woven from threads of history, culture, and countless influences. It's a language that connects us across continents, opens doors to a world of knowledge, and allows us to share stories that resonate deep within our souls. Learning English can be challenging, of course, but it's also an incredibly rewarding journey. It's about more than just memorizing vocabulary and grammar rules. It's about expanding your horizons, embracing new perspectives, and connecting with people from all walks of life. And that's what we're all about here on Readings in English. We'll be exploring the beauty and complexity of the English language through captivating stories, insightful discussions, and practical tips to help you on your learning journey. Today, I'm excited to share a story that beautifully illustrates the power of language and the sacrifices we sometimes make in its pursuit. It's a story about ambition, family, and the search for true success. It's called The Global Journey of Mark, and it follows the life of a Silicon Valley entrepreneur who embarks on a challenging quest to learn Mandarin Chinese in order to secure a life-changing business deal. But as he delves deeper into the intricacies of language and culture, he begins to realize that the true cost of his ambition may be far greater than he ever imagined. So, sit back, relax, and join me as we delve into the world of The Global Journey of Mark. Let's begin. The hum of the server rack was a constant lullaby in Mark's life. He'd built it himself, piece by piece, in the corner of his cramped two-bedroom apartment, the birthplace of Synergy, his groundbreaking project management software. Silicon Valley buzzed with 1,000 dreams just like his, but Mark felt a quiet confidence, a certainty that Synergy was different. He poured another cup of coffee, the lukewarm liquid a familiar comfort against the late-night coding sessions. He wasn't just building software. He was building a future. A future where his wife, Amy, wouldn't have to worry about the bills, and his son, Lucas, could have all the opportunities he deserved. Amy, a talented artist, had put her career on hold to support his dream, a sacrifice he never took for granted. He glanced at the framed family photo on his desk, a reminder of the life he was working towards. Lucas, all gap-toothed grin and bright eyes, held up a drawing of a rocket ship, a symbol of Mark's own soaring ambitions. He knew Amy worried about the long hours, the missed dinners, the constant presence of his laptop even at the breakfast table. He promised her it would all be worth it. Synergy was gaining traction, attracting small businesses and startups, but Mark dreamt bigger. He envisioned Synergy connecting teams across continents, breaking down language barriers, and facilitating global collaboration. He knew the key to achieving that vision lay beyond the borders of Silicon Valley. The ringing phone sliced through the quiet hum of the server. Mark, bleary-eyed from another all-nighter, fumbled for the receiver. Mark Johnson speaking. The voice on the other end was crisp and professional, tinged with a slight accent he couldn't quite place. Mr. Johnson, my name is Lin Wei, and I'm calling from Innovate Global in Beijing. We're very impressed with synergy. Mark's heart leaped. Innovate Global was a giant in the Chinese tech market. This was the break he'd been waiting for. Lin Wei continued, explaining their interest in integrating synergy into their operations. They were expanding rapidly, and they needed a platform to manage their increasingly global workforce. Mark listened intently, barely daring to breathe. This was it, his chance to take synergy to the next level. Then came the caveat. Mr. Johnson, Lin Wei said, our company operates primarily in Mandarin. While some of our executives speak English, for seamless integration and effective training, we require our partners to be proficient in Mandarin. Mark felt a wave of excitement wash over him, quickly followed by a surge of apprehension. Mandarin. He knew a few basic phrases, enough to order takeout, but business-level fluency? That was a different beast altogether. He glanced at the family photo, a knot forming in his stomach. He knew this opportunity would require even more of his time, more sacrifice. He hesitated for a moment, then pushed the doubt aside. Mr. Wei, he said, his voice filled with a newfound determination. I'm willing to learn. He hung up the phone, a mix of exhilaration and anxiety coursing through him. He knew this was a pivotal moment, a chance to realize his global vision. But as he looked at the family photo again, a flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. He wondered what this journey would demand of him, and what it might cost. Mark dove headfirst into the world of Mandarin. He transformed his home office into a makeshift language lab, plastering the walls with vocabulary charts and grammar rules. Textbooks and online courses became his constant companions, replacing late-night coding sessions with pronunciation drills and character memorization. He hired a tutor, Ms. Lee, a stern but patient woman who patiently guided him through the intricacies of tones and radicals. He started with the basics, greetings and simple phrases, slowly building a foundation. He discovered a surprising affinity for the language, a hidden talent for mimicking sounds and recognizing patterns. He practiced relentlessly, speaking Mandarin to anyone who would listen. The barista at his local coffee shop, the grocery store cashier, even Lucas, who giggled at his father's clumsy attempts to pronounce ni hao. But as Mark's Mandarin improved, his connection with his family deteriorated. Dinner conversations became a monologue of his daily struggles with the language, his frustrations and small victories. Amy tried to be supportive, asking about his progress and offering encouragement, but her smiles felt strained, her questions perfunctory. She spent more time in her art studio, a space where she could find solace and escape the constant barrage of Mandarin. Lucas, accustomed to his father's bedtime stories and weekend trips to the park, now found himself competing with flashcards and online lessons. He would tug at Mark's sleeve, asking him to play, but Mark, engrossed in his studies, would often brush him off with a distracted "later, buddy." The vibrant energy that once filled their home was slowly replaced by a quiet tension, a growing distance between them. Mark, consumed by his quest for fluency, remained oblivious to the cracks appearing in the foundation of his family life. He was too focused on the future, on the promise of success, to notice the present slipping away. The pressure mounted as the date of the presentation to Innovate Global drew closer. Mark's schedule became a relentless cycle of work, Mandarin study, and snatched moments of sleep. He pushed himself to the limit, sacrificing everything else in his pursuit of fluency. He canceled family dinners, skipped Lucas's soccer games, and missed Amy's art exhibition. He justified his absence with the promise of a brighter future, a future made possible by this deal. But his justifications rang hollow in the silence of his apartment, in the emptiness of his son's bedroom, and in the sadness he saw in Amy's eyes. The tension between them thickened, their conversations punctuated by terse exchanges and unspoken resentments. Amy pleaded with him to slow down, to prioritize his family, but Mark, driven by his ambition, remained deaf to her pleas. He saw her concerns as a lack of understanding, a failure to grasp the magnitude of this opportunity. He believed that once the deal was secured, everything would go back to normal. He would have the time, the resources, to make it up to them. But the normal he envisioned was already fading, replaced by a new reality where success came at the expense of connection, where ambition trumped intimacy. One evening, after another missed bedtime story, Lucas stood at his father's office door, tears streaming down his face. "Daddy," he whispered, "why don't you like me anymore?" Mark's heart sank. He knelt down, pulling his son into a hug, the weight of his son's words crushing him. He tried to explain, to reassure him, but the words caught in his throat. He realized with a chilling clarity that he was sacrificing not just his present, but also his future, the very future he was working so hard to build. The incident with Lucas became a turning point, a stark reminder of the toll Mark's ambition was taking on his family. He tried to make amends, to carve out more time for Amy and Lucas, but the damage was done. A chasm had opened between them, a chasm filled with resentment and unspoken hurt. Amy, once his biggest supporter, now met his attempts at reconciliation with a cool detachment. She continued to support him outwardly, attending business dinners and feigning enthusiasm for his Mandarin progress, but the warmth in her eyes had vanished, replaced by a quiet sadness. Their conversations became stilted, polite exchanges devoid of the easy intimacy they once shared. They slept in separate bedrooms, the physical distance mirroring the emotional gulf between them. Mark's obsession with the Innovate Global deal intensified, fueled by a desperate need to prove himself, to justify the sacrifices he had made. He worked longer hours, pushing himself to the brink of exhaustion. He saw the deal as his redemption, his chance to finally provide the secure future he had promised his family. But his single-minded focus blinded him to the crumbling reality around him. He failed to see the pain in Amy's eyes, the loneliness in Lucas's silence. He was so focused on climbing the mountain of success that he didn't notice the avalanche gathering behind him. The pressure from Innovate Global increased as well. They requested revisions to his software, demanding new features and tighter deadlines. Mark, already stretched thin, struggled to keep up. He felt like a tightrope walker, balancing precariously between his ambition and his family, the chasm below threatening to swallow him whole. He started having nightmares, vivid dreams of losing everything: his family, his company, his sanity. He would wake up in a cold sweat, the weight of his choices pressing down on him. The news hit Mark like a punch to the gut. During a networking event, he overheard a conversation about a rival company, Streamline Solutions, developing a similar project management software, also targeting the Chinese market. Streamline Solutions, led by the charismatic and well-connected entrepreneur, David Chen, was already making inroads with Innovate Global. Mark felt a surge of panic. He had poured his heart and soul into Synergy, sacrificing everything for this opportunity. The thought of losing it all to a competitor, especially one with a clear advantage in understanding the Chinese market, was unbearable. He doubled down on his efforts, pushing himself even harder. He spent every waking moment refining his software, perfecting his pitch, and honing his Mandarin skills. He neglected his health, surviving on caffeine and fast food, his apartment a mess of discarded takeout containers and crumpled notes. He became increasingly isolated, withdrawing from his few remaining social connections. He canceled his weekly poker night with his friends, ignored calls from his sister, and barely registered Amy's attempts to engage him in conversation. He was in a race against time, a race against a competitor he barely knew, a race he couldn't afford to lose. He saw David Chen as an obstacle, a threat to his dreams. He became consumed with the need to outmaneuver him, to prove that he was the better entrepreneur, the one deserving of Innovate Global's attention. But in his relentless pursuit of victory, he was losing sight of the things that truly mattered. He was sacrificing his family, his health, and his own well-being on the altar of ambition. Mark's Mandarin had improved significantly, but he was still struggling with the nuances of business communication. He could navigate everyday conversations, order food, and even discuss the weather, but the complexities of contract negotiations and technical presentations remained a challenge. He relied heavily on Ms. Li, his tutor, who patiently coached him through the intricacies of formal language and business etiquette. He learned the importance of indirect communication, the subtle art of saving face, and the delicate dance of building relationships in Chinese business culture. He practiced his pitch tirelessly, rehearsing every word, every gesture, every inflection. He knew that this presentation to Innovate Global was his make or break moment. The day of the presentation arrived, and Mark, despite his meticulous preparation, felt a knot of anxiety in his stomach. He delivered his pitch in near-perfect Mandarin, showcasing Synergy's features and highlighting its potential for the Chinese market. He felt confident, even exhilarated, as he answered the executive's questions with clarity and poise. However, during the Q&A session, a seemingly innocuous question about Synergy's long-term scalability threw him off balance. He stumbled over his words, his carefully constructed sentences dissolving into a jumble of half-formed phrases and nervous laughter. He tried to recover, to regain his composure, but the damage was done. He had inadvertently revealed a gap in his understanding of the Chinese market, a vulnerability that David Chen, with his innate cultural fluency, would never have exposed. He left the meeting feeling deflated, the initial euphoria replaced by a gnawing sense of failure. He realized that despite his progress, he was still an outsider, a foreigner struggling to navigate the complexities of a culture he didn't fully understand. The silence in the apartment was deafening. Mark sat at the kitchen table, staring blankly at the cold, untouched dinner Amy had prepared. The rejection from Innovate Global had hit him hard, shattering his carefully constructed facade of confidence. He felt like a failure, not just as an entrepreneur, but as a husband and a father. Amy entered the kitchen, her footsteps echoing in the stillness. She looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and exasperation. "Mark," she began, her voice trembling, "we need to talk." The conversation that followed was the culmination of months of unspoken resentment and simmering tension. Amy laid bare her feelings, her voice raw with pain. She spoke of her loneliness, her frustration, her fear that they were drifting apart. She told him about Lucas's nightmares, his constant questions about when his dad would come back from China, even though Mark had never physically left California. She spoke of her own stifled ambitions, her art gathering dust in the studio, her dreams deferred for a future that seemed increasingly uncertain. She ended with an ultimatum. "Mark, it's me and Lucas, or this obsession with China. You need to choose." Mark listened in stunned silence, the weight of her words crushing him. He had been so focused on his pursuit of success that he had failed to see the devastation he was leaving in his wake. He had sacrificed his family, his marriage, his son's happiness, all for a dream that now seemed like a mirage. He looked at Amy, her face etched with pain, and realized the magnitude of his mistake. He had climbed the mountain of ambition only to find himself alone at the summit, the world spread out below him, but no one to share the view. He broke down, the carefully constructed walls around his heart crumbling, the tears he had suppressed for so long finally flowing freely. He had reached his breaking point. The raw honesty of Amy's ultimatum had shattered Mark's illusion of control, forcing him to confront the wreckage of his priorities. The tears he shed that night were not just tears of disappointment, but tears of remorse, of recognition. He saw, with painful clarity, the damage he had inflicted on his family, the chasm he had created with his single-minded pursuit of success. The following morning, a fragile quiet settled over their home. Mark, stripped bare of his ambition, felt a profound sense of loss, but also a flicker of hope. He knew he had a long road ahead, a journey of rebuilding trust and reconnecting with the people who mattered most. He started small, making breakfast for Amy and Lucas, a simple gesture that felt monumental in its significance. He put away his Mandarin textbooks and flashcards, replacing them with Lucas's drawings and Amy's art supplies. He listened, truly listened, as Amy spoke about her day, her frustrations, her small joys. He played with Lucas, building elaborate Lego castles and engaging in imaginary battles with plastic dinosaurs. He rediscovered the simple pleasure of being present, of focusing on the moment, of connecting with his family without the distraction of his ambition. The process was slow, painstaking, like mending a shattered vase piece by piece. There were setbacks, moments of doubt, and the lingering sting of resentment. Amy, while cautiously optimistic, remained guarded, her wounds still raw. Lucas, though happy to have his father back, still carried the scars of neglect, clinging to Mark with a desperate intensity that both warmed and broke his heart. Mark, however, persevered. He attended Amy's art exhibitions, offering genuine praise and support. He helped Lucas with his homework, patiently explaining math problems and reading bedtime stories. He started taking Mandarin lessons again, but this time he set boundaries, ensuring that his studies didn't encroach on family time. He began to understand that true success wasn't measured in dollars or deals, but in the strength of his relationships, the love he shared with his family. The shift in Mark's perspective was gradual but profound. He began to see his work not as an escape from his family, but as a way to provide for them, to create a stable foundation for their shared future. He realized that his ambition, while a powerful driving force, needed to be tempered with compassion, empathy, and a deep appreciation for the people who stood by him. He started exploring new avenues for synergy, focusing on smaller, more sustainable growth, prioritizing ethical practices, and community engagement. He even incorporated some of Amy's artistic designs into the software's interface, a symbolic gesture of their renewed partnership. He reconnected with his old network of friends and colleagues in Silicon Valley, seeking advice and mentorship, rebuilding the bridges he had burned in his relentless pursuit of the Innovate Global deal. He discovered a new sense of purpose, a desire to use his skills and talents to make a positive impact, not just on the business world, but on the world around him. He volunteered at Lucas's school, teaching coding workshops and sharing his passion for technology with the next generation. He supported Amy's art career, connecting her with galleries and collectors, celebrating her talent, and encouraging her to pursue her dreams with the same fervor he had once reserved for his own. The relationship with Amy slowly began to heal. The walls of resentment crumbled, replaced by a renewed sense of intimacy and trust. They started having date nights again, rediscovering the joy of shared experiences, the simple pleasure of each other's company. Lucas, sensing the shift in his parents' dynamic, blossomed. He became more confident, more outgoing, his laughter filling their home once more. The call from Innovate Global eventually came, not with a contract offer, but with an apology. They acknowledged their misjudgment and expressed their admiration for Mark's resilience and integrity. They offered him a consulting position, a chance to share his expertise on the American market. Mark considered the offer, but ultimately declined. He had found something far more valuable than a multi-million-dollar deal. He had found his way back to his family, back to himself. He had discovered that true success wasn't about conquering the world, but about cherishing the people who made his world worth conquering. He had finally understood the true meaning of synergy, not just in business, but in life.